So we're going to go ahead and get started. Thanks for your patience. Anna, can you hear me okay? Okay. My name is Wendy Johnson. I'm the Outreach and Education Coordinator for the Iowa Organic Association. And today with us, we will be speaking with, or Anna Johnson will be presenting. Anna Johnson is from the Center for Rural Affairs, and she is the policy manager. I just am going to give some just a few minutes of introduction about the Iowa Organic Association, and then I will turn it over to Anna. If I can get my slide to move. Here we go. All right, so the mission of the Iowa Organic Association is to advance organic agriculture and food systems in Iowa. We were established in 2006 as a statewide nonprofit organization committed to organic education, advocacy, and community cooperation. Our members are diverse. They range from farmers, gardeners, food and farm businesses, advocates, and consumers who are devoted to supporting and expanding organic opportunities in Iowa. So a large part of our strategic plan is to provide education. And we do this through programs, providing expertise and information to help expand and diversify organic opportunities in Iowa. We raise awareness about organic production systems, the health benefits of organic foods, the economic benefits of organic production, and the environmental benefits of organic agriculture. And we do this through our field days, our workshops and webinars like today's, and research, sharing research. We have been putting on a group of workshops called Growing Organic Expertise in Iowa. We were funded a grant through the Sustainable Agriculture Research and Education Program. And we are slated to do 20 workshops across the state. We held 4 last October. We held 4 this February. And so we will put on some additional of the workshops starting again in June or July, and running through March of 2021. These workshops are aimed toward service providers that help farmers that have questions on transitioning to organic. Those folks who have been coming to these workshops are mostly NRCS staff, Extension, FSA, anybody who's consulting with farmers, and that includes lenders, crop insurance agents as well. But we have had a number of farmers who are interested in transitioning to organic come, and they learned a good basic 101, organic 101. We've also had Dr. Kathleen Dellett provide information about her research in Iowa, as well as Matt Levitt from the Albert Lee Seed House, and who helped promote the oats training, and a few others. And we always have farmer panelists come to these and talk about through their experience transitioning to organic. The Midwest Organic Pork Conference is coming up this weekend. So if any of you are online, I highly recommend attending. It is the first conference of its kind ever organized in the United States, dedicated to presenting the best resources and information available to expand the organic pork industry. Last year, over 120 people across the Midwest came and participated in that 2-day event. And so we are excited to have a part 2 of this organic pork conference coming up this weekend. For more information, or if you'd like to register, you can still do that. There's the website, midwestorganicporkconference.org, or you can go to our website to find that link at iowaorganic.org. Another element of our strategic plan is outreach. And so we participate at conferences across the state and into Wisconsin, surrounding states, Minnesota. We are trying to reach an organic target audience. So we go to the Iowa Organic Conference here in Iowa City, Moses, Practical Farmers of Iowa, and O-Grain in Wisconsin as well. And we also have a web calendar, e-news that we send out to our members and non-members. If anybody just wants to sign up and subscribe for the e-news, you can do that on our website. We also have social media on Facebook, and we have an active Iowa Organic listserv. So we promote research events and resources beneficial to the organic community through our outreach events. Another important element is our Iowa Organic Resource Directory, and it was developed to provide organic and transitioning farmers a wide range of resources to help encourage widespread success in organic agriculture. Over 900 businesses, nonprofits, educators, and service providers are listed in this directory, and we are rolling out very, very soon the 2020 updated Organic Resource Directory. It serves as a valuable tool for Iowa's organic community. And I refer to it all the time. So the new one will be coming out very shortly. And lastly, a large part, I'm sorry, I have advocacy too, but another large part of the Organic Association is community building. And we encourage you to become members. But the organic community really builds strength as we get to talk with one another through a listserv, through questions, farmer to farmer, mentorship, farmer to farmer, learning. And so we have an annual member meeting in the fall of every year, and you can network and get together with other farmers, organic farmers during field days, and then be able to talk with them through the listserv as well to ask questions. We really want to help build and strengthen relationships within the organic community in Iowa. And so we highly recommend that you participate in our community outreach events and share resources. And lastly, advocacy is another part of our strategic plan, and that is to unify the voice for organic interests. We develop relationships with policy leaders, and we mobilize advocates and stakeholders willing to advance organic interests. All right, so I think that is it, except we highly recommend that you become an Iowa Organic member. By joining and supporting us, it helps us build a strong organic base that can help advance the interests of all of Iowa's organic farmers, businesses, and consumers. So to get more information on becoming a member, please visit our website at iowaorganic.org. You can also email our executive director, Roz Lehman, roz@iowaorganic.org, or myself, Wendy at iowaorganic.org, or call this phone number. With that, I also need to put in a plug for the Iowa Learning Farms. We want to thank them for partnering with us on this webinar and hosting. So on to that, Anna, you can take over.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Let me know if you can't hear me. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you so much, Wendy. That was great. Thank you, Roz. Thank you, Liz. I'm glad to be here to be talking about crop insurance. So I hope that you can see my slides now. This first slide is the crop insurance for organic producers. And if you have questions during my presentation, please feel free to put them into the chat box, and I'll keep an eye on them, and we can do some Q&A at the end if folks have questions. And then I also have my contact information if you have any follow-up questions. So, okay, so first, a little bit about me. Who am I? What am I doing here? So I work at the Center for Rural Affairs, which is another nonprofit organization. And our headquarters is in Lyons, Nebraska, which is a town of around 800 people in eastern Nebraska. And we advocate for rural communities. And we do this through a variety of strategies, including small business lending and training, and working with farmers and ranchers and communities. And we do some policy advocacy. And so crop insurance fits into that because we know that farms are an important part of healthy rural communities, and healthy farms need strong risk management strategies. So crop insurance is one of the things that we focus on. So, you know, who am I? A little bit about me. So again, I'm Anna Johnson, and I'm a policy manager at the center, and this is my contact info if you want to follow up with me. A little bit of background on me and my connection with organics. I worked on 2 small certified organic vegetable CSA operations about 10 years ago. I spent 3 years working at USDA's headquarters in their budget and regulatory office, so I got to know some of the folks there who worked on the National Organic Program and learned a little bit about, organic regulations from that end of things. And then I've been at the center for about 4 years and working on crop insurance and conservation policy in this capacity. So I'm really excited to get to talk to you today. So an outline for some of the pieces I'm going to go over. I wanted to talk first over the basics of crop insurance and organic crop insurance options. And I'm going to spend some time talking about the whole farm revenue protection product, crop insurance product. And then I'll talk a little bit about how to go about navigate buying crop insurance and some things to keep in mind during that process. So, but before we kind of dive into all that, I wanted to take a step back and say, why crop insurance? It's situated in the system that we're working in. So, if you think about if there's a time in the year when a major crop loss would be a major blow to your operation, crop insurance might be a valuable option to consider. And if there isn't a policy for a crop that you grow and you would like to purchase crop insurance to cover it, whole farm revenue protection, which I'll be talking about a little bit more, might be a good option. But of course, we know that crop insurance is not the only risk management strategy, and I know there are some folks who rely on being diversified as a risk management strategy. So crop insurance is one tool that I'm talking about today. It's not the only thing. So let's talk a little bit more about what crop insurance really is. On a really basic level, crop insurance is insurance against farm loss. It's a product that you purchase from a crop insurance agent, and the real basic process is you pay a premium up front, and then if you have a loss, you file a claim for an indemnity payment that you get after a loss, similar to like other insurance. So, but I want to also clarify that there are some things that kind of get mixed up with crop insurance that aren't crop insurance. The non-insured crop disaster assistance program. One thing about working a farm bill policy is that it's just full of acronyms. So this one is also known as NAP. And then other programs managed by FSA, such as ARC PLC. These are not crop insurance. And I kind of tease that out a little bit more. Folks probably are familiar with USDA, the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and within USDA, they have several different agencies, and 2 of them are listed here: Risk Management Agency (RMA), Farm Service Agency (FSA). And so RMA, I'll talk through a little bit about what they do, and to describe the broader crop insurance system. So RMA, this government agency, works with private insurance companies, which are also called AIPs, and there are about 15 of these AIPs, private insurance companies. And then those companies then in turn work with individual crop insurance agents. So for farmers, when you buy crop insurance, you find an agent, which is a person who is privately employed, and you purchase crop insurance from them. And then they're working with the crop insurance company, who's then working with the government to decide what policies are available, what the rates are going to be, and so on. So that's the channel that we'll be talking about today, which is whereas the Farm Service Agency, as you probably know, also a branch of USDA, they offer the programs I mentioned earlier, RPLC, NAP, and you apply for these programs through your local FSA office, which also offers various other programs like loans. And so to apply for those programs, you're working with a government employee, and it's a kind of a different channel. So FSA doesn't offer crop insurance. So we're only talking about the RMA side of things, the private crop insurance piece today. And to further narrow down, today we're talking about the government-managed, government-subsidized crop insurance. So those private insurance companies that I mentioned, they sometimes offer two kinds of crop insurance. One that is this government-backed, subsidized, government writes the overall policies, but then they'll also sometimes sell insurance products that they've developed themselves that are not subsidized. And so today I'm only really focusing on that first one, the ones that have that are done in partnership with USDA, Risk Management Agency. So with all of those caveats and all of that, some basics on crop insurance. You might know that the top crops that have crop insurance coverage purchased for them in the U.S. are corn, soybeans, rice, cotton, and wheat. So those are the major players in the crop insurance world. And in order to offer crop insurance, the insurance companies need a fair amount of data on production levels and pricing, and also location-specific data, which then becomes a problem if you are growing or raising something that's unique in your area. Then the insurance companies don't have the data on it, and they don't offer policies for that crop or those animals. Which I'm sure all the folks on the phone, all the organic folks on the phone purchasing crop insurance are well aware of. So in the broad crop insurance world, what is available for certified organic producers? Nationally, there are a lot of organic crop insurance policies that are available, ranging from almonds to walnuts. There wasn't it's like an A to Z, but there wasn't a Z. However, as you're probably already aware, as with standard crop insurance, these organic options are not offered everywhere. And however, if an organic policy exists, like if organic, there's for an organic corn policy, it can cover both your certified acres and your transitioning acres. So that's an important piece to keep in mind, because I know that the 3-year transition period is a tough kind of bridge to navigate. So crop insurance, if there's an organic policy available, it can cover those transitioning acres. So how do you find out whether there's organic crop insurance for you where you are? So I'll walk through, there's kind of 2 ways to figure this out. One is to call up an insurance agent and chat with them. And you can also kind of dig around on the USDA crop insurance websites. So I'm going to show a couple of screen grabs from that, which I think are useful. And I'll just kind of zoom through them. This is a tool called the Actuarial Information Browser, which is developed by USDA's Risk Management Agency. It's the title's up here at the top if you want to go find it yourself. So when you log into the Actuarial Information Browser, the most exciting name for a website ever, you see there are several options to look up what crop insurance is available. So here I looked up corn. If I wanted to see what options there are for corn in 2020, if I wanted to buy yield protection and say I live in Iowa and in Black Hawk County, then the report that I get looks something like this. And you can see, I'm not sure if you guys can see my mouse, but I'm moving it on there's a tab here highlighted that says prices. And so if you pull up that report and click on the prices, then you can see what prices are that they recognize for this crop insurance option for corn. And you can see if there's an organic option, and kind of scrolling through, you can see further down, there's several different kinds of corn that have an organic price election associated with them. So probably not a surprise. There's robust options for organic crop insurance coverage. However, I also looked at apples. The only insurance option for apples in 2020 is a APH plan, and in Iowa it's only offered in 3 counties: Greene, Johnson, and Tama. So if I want to buy apple insurance in another county in Iowa, there's just not a policy available for those apples. However, pulling up that report, if I click on that prices tab again and scroll through, there are price elections for organic apples in Iowa. So organic apple producers in those 3 counties should be able to get crop insurance for their apples. However, what if I am a producer? What if I am growing chestnuts? What if I have certified organic chestnuts? If you go back to that same screen and you look up chestnuts on that list, there isn't even an option. There's not a crop insurance product offered anywhere in the country for just chestnuts specifically. So what to do? So this is when whole farm revenue protection comes in. This is a crop insurance product that has been around for a couple of years, and And it's a pilot program that was created by the 2014 Farm Bill, and is an option which I'll talk about a little bit more before I get into it. So what is whole farm revenue protection? And a note on this, I'm going to be saying whole farm, and on the screen you'll probably see WFRP. It's all the same thing, whole farm revenue protection, which is a crop insurance product for diverse operations. And what does it do? It offers insurance coverage for the revenue of the entire operation. So this is, you're looking at what you think your revenue is going to be for the coming year, and you're purchasing insurance for it. So if it drops way below what you expected to get, then you can file your claim on it. And then where do you go to get it? You purchase it from a crop insurance agent, like other forms of crop insurance. So what does whole farm cover? The way that it works is that it will cover the value of crops and livestock that you produce on your operation during the coverage year period, which is usually about a year. So it can be used to cover the higher value of organic crops that standard crop insurance might not cover, and where organic crop insurance might not be available. So more about this point about the value that it covers. It covers the revenue that's produced in an insurance period. So the revenue from something grown last year and sold this year will not be covered, but something you grow this year but haven't sold yet will be covered. The way I like to think about this is you think about the grain in the bin. If I'm buying whole farm for this year and I have grain in the bin that I grew last year, whole farm won't cover the revenue that I get from that. But at the end of this year, if I still have grain in the bin that I grew this year, it will cover the value of that. And then also it will cover for commodities that grow each year, like cattle are growing value each year. Only the group growth for that insurance year counts. So the example that the example that people give here is, if you have a calf who is worth $800 at the beginning of the year and worth $2,000 at the end of the year, the value that you are going to insure under your whole farm policy is going to be $1,200, that difference. And so to document all of this, so that you work with your crop insurance agent and figure all of this out, well, what's your operation doing? What's the revenue you're expecting? They look at inventories and accounts receivable paperwork to figure out that produced amount, to do all of that estimation. So a couple more pieces on who is eligible and might want to use whole farm. There's an upper limit to how much revenue you can cover with whole farm. If your operation has more than 8.5 million in revenue, then whole farm is only going to cover 8.5 million of that. And then also the limits lower are for animals and greenhouse or nursery revenue. So if you have more than 2 million in revenue from animals and animal products, or 2 million in greenhouse and nursery revenue, whole farm's only going to cover up to 2 million of revenue from those categories. And then also there's a clause in there about folks who are purchasing and then reselling products, which I've seen on some vegetable farms where you're supplementing from neighboring vegetable farms. If you're purchasing, a batch of onions from somebody else and then reselling them to supplement, your onions this year, whole farm is only going to cover 50% of the revenue from that resale. So you can figure it in, but it's only going to cover 50%. Is there anything that whole farm doesn't cover? Oh my goodness. Are you growing something that won't be covered? So whole farm will cover all farm commodities except for timber, forest, and forest products, and animals for sport, show, and pets. So that's pretty self-explanatory, but it won't cover your tree stand, and it won't cover your show animals, that sort of thing. And if you already buy another form of crop insurance, why even consider whole farm? I know a lot of organic folks who have like some acres of organic corn and beans and some acres of conventional corn and beans. How does whole farm fit into that system? So the answer is you can actually buy whole farm to supplement your other crop insurance, and it's called the buy-up option. So the example is, maybe you have a yield policy for your organic corn, and maybe you also grow a couple acres of berries and certified organic berries and pumpkins. what you could do is you purchase your organic corn policy from your agent, and then also add that buy-up option with Whole Farm, and the total premium. I have heard anecdotally that the total premium can sometimes even go down when you do that. You would have to talk to your agent about your specific situation, but if you do that, then you have your policy for your corn, and then you have Whole Farm that's covering your berries and your pumpkins, which is more coverage. So that might be a useful option for some folks. One note though is if you do this and then you have a loss and then you file a claim and you receive an indemnity payment, that payment does not count in the revenue when you're going to file under your Whole Farm policy. You can't count your indemnity payments as revenue. Another cool point about this crop insurance option Whole Farm is that it will reward diversification. And I was thinking, I don't think I've ever met an organic producer who was not, somewhat, not sufficiently diversified to qualify for this reward under Whole Farm. It's only up to 3. You get the maximum reward if you have 3 or more commodities. So it's not. Again, I haven't met an organic farmer who was like just one thing forever. So to a reminder about how does this really work? So all federal crop insurance premiums are subsidized. Again, the government pays a chunk of the crop insurance bill, the crop insurance premium. The Whole Farm is a federal crop insurance product. It's no exception. And so the government kicks in more subsidy on the Whole Farm premium if you have more than one commodity. Again, up to 3, you qualify for the highest level. So if you're thinking about it, you might go price it out and see if it works for your operation, and see how the bill would be for you. Then another important thing to point out is I know some organic folks who rely on value added production. So this is raising dairy animals and making cheese, or raising fruit and then making jam, that sort of thing. And Whole Farm is only going to cover the revenue from the raw agricultural products, and it won't cover the additional revenue from the value-added activities. So that's what this quote is basically saying. That's an important thing to keep in mind. If that's a major chunk of your operation, that'll help you decide if Whole Farm's a good choice for you. So I also, when I was describing Whole Farm to a friend a couple of years ago, he kind of said, like, wait, does this mean that, I purchased this insurance policy for my revenue, and then if my revenue is just lower, then I get a payment? And that's not how it works. Your revenue, you're purchasing crop insurance for revenue being lower due to specific reasons, and due to specifically the technical language is due to unavoidable natural causes that occur during the insurance period. So this can include a decline in local market price, but that has to be determined to be unavoidable and from natural causes rather than due to human action. So one more point on this, and if that change in price happens like 10 days after you sign up for the policy, they'll have to make changes to your policy, is my reading of this piece of the technical language for Whole Farm. So what this, so my advice here is, if you're seeking to purchase Whole Farm, spend some time talking through an agent to figure out what this might really mean for you and the markets that you sell in, and what the natural and unnatural causes to changes in market price might be. But so also, to help illustrate this point, what are some causes of lower revenue, some causes of loss that Whole Farm won't cover? And so it will not cover losses due to negligence or mismanagement. It will not cover losses that are caused by people. It's like spray drift or fire. This is true for all crop insurance, actually. If you're not following RMA-defined good farming practices, it won't cover losses for that. And it won't cover losses due to damage to machinery or equipment, or the inability to market due to quarantine or boycott or diverted acres or refusal of someone to accept the commodities. So there's a variety of things that can impact revenue that this policy won't address. So it's important to be aware of what those are going in. The whole list of them, if you wanted to look it up yourself, is in the handbook, Whole Farm, and I'll take a moment. It's called the Whole Farm Revenue Protection Pilot Handbook 2020 and Succeeding Policy Years. And this list is on page 66. And also, you can talk through an agent about it as well. So I talked a lot about Whole Farm and had a couple options or examples around organics. I wanted to dive in a little bit more for how Whole Farm, is particularly, available or not. So for organic farmers, the sign-up process for purchasing Whole Farm is the same as with conventional folks, because it's revenue-based. And the value of it is that you can demonstrate to an insurance agent that the price that, the higher prices that you get. So you're able to ensure the actual revenue that you're getting from your higher priced organic products. But you need to, as conventional folks do, you need to be able to demonstrate that the actual production you're planning to do, the prices, the actual prices that you currently get, so you can make an accurate revenue estimate. So you want to kind of nail that down as precisely as you can with your agent. Another piece to this here is that you to use the organic prices in your policy, you need to demonstrate that you're certified organic. However, for folks who have less than $5,000 in revenue, they don't have to demonstrate being certified. They just have to demonstrate that they're following an organic plan. So that's a caveat for folks on that end of the scale. So then a little bit more technical stuff for folks who have purchased crop insurance before. This is going to be this is a pretty basics, but under Whole Farm there are 50% to 85% coverage levels. So this is how much protection are you trying to buy? With other crop insurance, something called catastrophic coverage is available for a catastrophic loss, and that's not available for Whole Farm. So just to recap for anybody who's totally new to the insurance space, 50% coverage level will mean that if you experience loss that brings your revenue down by 50%, you can file an insurance claim, whereas 85% coverage level means that if you experience revenue loss up to 85% for the year, that's when you file the claim. So deciding which coverage level is something that you work out with your agent. And the prices for different coverage level varies. And also back to that point on how Whole Farm is designed to reward people who are diversified. This is another area where Whole Farm rewards you for being diversified, because that highest coverage level is only available if you are producing 3 or more commodities. Cool. So that's my section on Whole Farm, on all the nitty-gritty of that. So the last piece I'll talk about is how do you go about buying crop insurance, and who do you talk to, and what do you need to think about? So a couple of basic tips. You need to find a crop insurance agent to buy crop insurance from. USDA has a phone book of agents called their agent locator tool, which you can look up online. Anecdotally, while Whole Farm is, this is another Whole Farm anecdote, but Whole Farm is supposed to be available in every county across the country. It should be available to everybody, but the reality is that a lot of agents are still new to it, and so one point that I thought was really interesting to learn is that you do not have to buy crop insurance from the agent who is closest to you. You can buy crop insurance from somebody who's further away. I met a guy who's buying Whole Farm in North Carolina from a crop insurance company in Idaho. So, go where the expertise is, if that seems like it's the right fit for you. And note too that for purchasing any crop insurance, particularly if it's your first time, it'll take a little while to iron out with your agent what coverage level you need, what policy you need, how it fits with your operation. So, just set aside some time for it. The filing deadline is March 15th, so coming right up. But it's never too early to be thinking about next year and to be getting your records together and, for purchasing next year. A note for those thinking about for beginning farmers thinking about buying crop insurance, beginning farmers can get a couple bonuses under crop insurance for being beginners. Under most crop insurance, you count as a beginner if you've been farming up to 5 years and are purchasing standard crop insurance. But under whole farm, that's actually up to 10 years, so you still count as a beginner. If you've been farming up to 10 years under whole farm. For beginners, you qualify for a 10% premium bonus, so your crop insurance bill is going to be lower. And also, if there are any fees for a policy that you're purchasing that has catastrophic coverage, that those fees are going to be waived. And another helpful thing is that I know a lot of beginners who move around from farm to farm as you're getting established. And that can be tough to go to buy crop insurance if you don't have like production history on one farm in one place for a couple of years. So they have an allowance that you can use production histories from a farm that you were involved in, even if you're not currently there anymore. So there's some kind of their allowance made to kind of meet beginning farmers where they're at on that issue. So once you found your agent and you're going in to talk to them about purchasing crop insurance, some useful questions to bring up are, talking about how big the premium is going to be and how big the subsidy is, and then how much you're going to be responsible for. When is the payment deadline? It's probably about August 15th for most policies. And then also get real clear on what reporting is required before, during, and after, and particularly get real clear early on how to document a loss and then file a claim if you do experience a loss. Because of course, none of us buy insurance, and we definitely don't buy crop insurance wanting to have a loss. But loss, navigating through that kind of like crisis can be really tough, and so being prepared and knowing how to document a loss beforehand can really save you a headache later on. So the time period for documenting a loss can be short, around 72 hours. So really just get really clear up front, and hopefully you don't have to use that knowledge, but make sure you have it, and you know what you need to do. Also, talk with your agent about the timing for processing claims. That once you file a claim with them, how long does it take to turn that around and send you an indemnity payment? So just some basics. Also, another thing to think about: if your agent isn't familiar with your farm business model, consider bringing educational materials about your farm and your markets when you meet with them. So that, if they've never worked with a goat farmer, you might want to bring some information about what your production is like, and what your markets are like, and what your season is like. And then for those of you who have a little bit of time to poke around on the internet, USDA RMA also has a cool tool to go in and get an estimate for how much you think, how much crop insurance policy will cost you. If you want to go check that out, it's the cost estimator tool. You put in some parameters about your farm, and then it tells you, well, your premium at this coverage level is going to be this, and at this coverage level it's going to be this, and this much will be subsidized. So again, that's the cost estimator tool. And then also some basics. USDA RMA has a document called Producer Obligations and Expectations, and that has a lot of just helpful information about different deadlines for reporting and filing and so on. So check that out. So I've talked about kind of like what things to think about when purchasing crop insurance generally, and I have a couple more pieces of advice if you're looking at purchasing whole farm. So it applies, same basic steps apply. You need to be eligible to receive federal benefits in order to purchase whole farm, and you have to be a U.S. citizen or resident. You have to have an agent, again, you have to have a crop insurance agent. And then one of the big pieces about purchasing a whole farm product policy is you need to have documentation to demonstrate what your expected production and revenue will be in the coming year. And so that's the thing to get in touch with an agent early on to find out what that documentation is, and work on getting it together. And so then, then once you're meeting with your agent, you want to discuss whole farm options and requirements, and pick out your coverage level and find out your premium, and then, purchase the policy. if it seems like a good fit for you. So on that point of gathering documentation, they ask for your Schedule F records from your tax returns for the last 5 years. And if you're a beginner, it's the last 3 years. You don't have to show your Schedule F if you are physically unable to farm, or if you are a tax-exempt entity such as a tribal entity, or if you have other acceptable records, but usually it's Schedule F. And then also, be gathering documentation about what you have produced on your farm the last couple of years and what you plan to produce in the next year. So this can include supporting records, organic certification, inventory records, accounts receivable. You might need to have documentation on how many commodities you grow and raise so that you can qualify for that, 3 commodity bonus level of various thresholds. And you also may need documentation on any planned expansions you have in the coming year, because this is another thing I forgot. Could have moved this earlier, but here it is. What if your operation is growing? What if you, are adding on some extra acres, and if you look at your revenue from the last 5 years, and then you look at what you expect to get in the next year, and it will go up because you're expanding your acreage. So your revenue from the last 5 years will not actually be a good predictor of what it should be in the coming year because of that expansion. So whole farm has a allowance built in to account for that, and so to have that figured into your policy, you should bring along information about your planned expansion with your conversation with your agent. So talk to your crop insurance agent to learn more about that. Again, as you're demonstrating your expected prices and yields with your agent, be thinking about what price do you reasonably expect to receive in the markets that you sell to. They really want to see that you have done some good thinking about, and have some good documentation about the prices that you usually get and the yields that you expect to get, because they want to have an accurate estimate of your revenue in the coming year. And then this is a, short list of a couple different reports that you can expect to file. I won't talk through them. So, something to talk through with your agent about what kind of reporting will they need. And this is also that note about filing a claim again. So make sure that you know what the requirements are for documenting a loss for when you file a claim. Hopefully you won't need to use them. So that's kind of beginning to end the crop insurance talk. So I went over the basics of crop insurance and some of the organic crop insurance options, both for individual crops, and then also talked a fair amount about the whole farm revenue protection product, which could be a useful product for folks who are producing organic products that can't get insurance otherwise. And then I talked through a little bit how to navigate purchasing crop insurance and some things to think about and some documentation to gather to prepare for that. So I hope that was helpful and kind of a good overview. So if you have any questions for me, I think we'll be staying on the line, but I'm putting up my contact information, and also before we can open it up, I wanted to flag that we've been doing some outreach and education on crop insurance for the last couple of years with a focus on whole farm, but there's some other topics thrown in there too. And so you can find that on our website at the address on the screen, cfra.org/crop insurance resources. So there's a lot of webinars and fact sheets and just general info up there if you want to follow up more. So I think that is my final slide. Yeah. So thank you, everybody. That concludes my talk. And if we want to open up for questions, I think feel free to put them in the chat box. I'll give folks a minute or two to type if you've got something you want to ask.
Anna, can you hear me?
Yeah. Hey, Wendy.
Oh, I've got a question to start out.
Yeah.
People chime in in the chat box. So do you have, there's for crop insurance, there's these supplemental programs or supplemental products available for just regular crop insurance options. Is that also included with the whole farm, because the whole farm goes up to 85% and crop insurance agents are promoting supplemental this year? on top of your 80 to 85% coverage. Do you know anything about that? And is it recommended for producers to get a supplemental on top of the whole farm?
I have not heard that there's supplemental options on top of whole farm. So, so I don't think I can say whether or not it's recommended.
Yeah, it's a question that we can ask their crop insurance agent as well.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, there aren't a lot of, there are some agents out there who are excited to sell whole farm, and those are the people to talk to. But I don't think there's, I would be surprised if there are extra things that agents are pushing on top of whole farm. So yeah, but I think that's the thing to ask the agent.
Okay. And do you know what the average size of a farm that signs up for whole farm that would be advantageous for? 500 acres, 10 acres?
Yeah. I have asked that of a couple different people, and I don't have official data from RMA that says like all crop and all whole farm policies are for operations with expected revenue above X. There's certainly no lower limit, but kind of anecdotally, I think one agent said that the whole farm policies that he sells are for operations that have around 40 to 50,000 in revenue for a year. So it's not so much acreage based because they'll cover revenue from all kinds of operations. So obviously different crops have different values, different crops, different acreage produce different value of crops. But that was kind of that was a real basic, rough back of the envelope estimate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think we have a question here from Monica.
Yes. For folks who can't see it, Monica says that most of the supplemental products are not available on organic crops. And my advice on that would be to, I know I sound kind of like a, one message person, but I mean, asking about whole farm, because I don't expect that there are supplemental things that go along with whole farm. I think it's because it's just covering all of the revenue. But I'm sorry, I don't know a ton about, like, if you're purchasing organic corn insurance and they're offering a supplemental option, I don't have advice on that. Any other questions? But thank you, Monica. Thanks for following up on that.
I know there's been some questions about cover crops and crop insurance. Yes. Under the whole farm, or in general, I guess, crop insurance. Do you have any thoughts on that we could tell folks about using cover crops and crop insurance? Yes.
So your crop insurance coverage will not be affected by planting cover crops. The most recent Farm Bill said that pretty explicitly. So if you're planting cover crops, you should be, your crop insurance is going to be fine. If you want to kind of read up more about it, more of the technical, whatever policy stuff, USDA's Risk Management Agency has their kind of policy around what they consider good farming practices. And so what happened was the 2018 Farm Bill said cover crops are going to be included in the good farming practices, full stop. So your crop insurance coverage should not be impacted by planting cover crops. So please plant cover crops.
Well, I know there's been, there might be some questions if those cover crops are taken to seed, and then let's say, for example, cereal rye is taken to seed and then planted soybeans right after that, and then harvested soybeans. Then I think the crop insurance is affected if you're doing multi-crops in 1 year. Is that correct?
I haven't read up on how multi-crops in 1 year impacts. I know that that's multiple crops can be an issue with crop insurance. But generally what they've done is they used to have like, deadlines where you had to make sure you terminate your cover crops by such and such a date, and all of that is done. But I think you want to, talk with an agent to figure out about the multiple crops in 1 year issue, because I think that's still a thing that that the crop insurance isn't, still isn't designed to do. And if anybody wants to follow up with me after the talk, I'd love to hear more about how, if you're running into issues in that space of trying to get cover crops out and having issues with crop insurance.
Right. Well, if there are no more questions, we've got about a minute left. I want to thank you, Anna, for your time and information. This has been really an informative webinar. This will be archived on our website at iowaorganic.org. If you or someone you know would like to visit or have questions about crop insurance, please do share. The link should be out by early next week, and it'll be posted on our website. So if there's no other questions for you, Anna, thank you very much. I also want to do a plug for our next webinar that we will be hosting, Robin Prusner, and that will be a growing hemp in Iowa webinar. We had one earlier about a month ago, and we are doing a part 2 to that webinar series. Robin Prusner is the Iowa Hemp Administrator for IDALS, and she will be the host of that webinar, or our guest for that webinar. If you'd like more information and like to register for that webinar, please visit our website at iowaorganic.org. With that, thank you very much, Anna. And again, if you have any questions for Anna, please reach out. Her resource information is on the screen.
Awesome.
Have a great day, everybody.
Have a great day. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.